this, inflation is still the government and Bank of England's top priority. The growth is part of a broadly flat trend in GDP, and the expectation that the Bank of England will further increase interest rates means that many fear a recession could still be on the horizon. Simon Gaitan, London.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail today at NATO's largest ever air defence exercise. It got underway this week, a 2-week demonstration of the alliance's military strength involving 250 aircraft and 10,000 military personnel. Germany is hosting it, with 25 nations participating, including Japan. The US alone has sent more than 100 aircraft to Germany for the drill, and it is lost on no one that the exercises are taking place just as Ukraine begins its counter-offensive against Russia. Bob McMahon is with America's Council on Foreign Relations.
Germany hosting this is a big deal. NATO sort of setting itself up as a defense organization and stressing the defense nature of these maneuvers is also very important. They are talking strenuously about not allowing 1 inch of NATO soil to be violated and so forth. Given what Russia has going on, I don't think NATO soil is under threat at the moment, but the invasion triggered a great deal of concern in NATO and a great deal of existential concern from some of the newer NATO members, especially the Baltic nations, who don't have their own air forces, among other things, and so will rely on things like the ability of NATO to scramble to their assistance if need be. This type of exercise has not been held before. So it's an important moment.
And a moment that challenges Russia, with Lithuania, Poland, Romania and the Czech Republic playing a role in demonstrating airborne deterrence. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, at least 3 people have been killed in an attack on the Ukrainian city of Odessa amid fierce fighting in the east of the country. Italy is marking the death of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi with a state funeral in Milan. And the UK economy has returned to growth, with GDP increasing 0.2% in April, with another interest rate on the horizon. That's the latest feature story news. Julia Chapman reporting.
Good morning. It's the KCHW Morning Show. We have Mike, Chuck, myself, and later on we'll have the mayor this morning at 8 a.m. How you guys doing this morning?
Good. Am I on the show?
You're on the show, Scott. Got me doing the intro today.
That's a good way of saying you're retired.
No,
he just retired me, didn't he? I said, Chuck, you can do the opening this morning and just say good morning and announce who's on the show, and he totally left me out.
That's because you're on the Starship Enterprise or something.
Did I not say you, Scott?
You didn't. It's
oh,
okay,
my
though.
Goodness, I'm sorry. My first time doing the intro, and all that. But, yeah.
No, good job.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to ask how everyone's doing this morning, but I think I already did that.
All right. It's rainy here in Maine. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. Sunshine and rain happening in Kalispell.
Yeah. We kind of had a nice day yesterday, but you could actually that smoke from Canada, went and just hammered New York and stuff. We really hadn't seen it here in Maine, but it was here yesterday. We could see the smoke from Canada. You had a nice haze over everything. But what was funny is it was thick enough to see, but you couldn't smell it, which was weird.
Really? So to remind you of Chihuahua in August?
It does.
Every August, all August.
Yeah. Totally. All right. Should we take a look at that weather for Chihuahua this morning?
Yeah.
All right. First up, you got a kind of a rainy one today. It's 60%. Is it raining right now, you guys? Or Chuck, at least?
It was cloudy when I came in. There was definitely some moisture in the air, but it wasn't actively raining, no.
All right. Expecting a winds up to 10 miles per hour, 60% chance of rain, high of 69. Drop down to 51 tonight. Cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy after midnight. That leaves you with a partly cloudy day for Thursday, 77 and 51. Warm it up for Friday, 82 and 57, partly cloudy skies. Partly cloudy for Saturday and Sunday as well. Saturday, 79 And Sunday, a cold front moving in, 67. Looking ahead to next week, the beginning of it at least, temperatures in the low 60s, which would be kind of traditional June weather in Chihuahua.
I'm sending it to you because that's exactly like our weather forecast, but 2 days earlier.
I'm happy to be able to get some
It's really
sweaters
the
back
same
out.
here, too.
Yeah.
All right, what the kids are eating for lunch today on this Wednesday, and this is all part of the summer breakfast program for 2023. A variety of muffins, fruit juice, and a milk choice. And then for lunch today, sub sandwich. It's a ham sub sandwich, carrots, fresh fruit, and again, your choice of milk. And if you need to get signed up for that program, they're calling the temporary added sustenance to youth, or better known as Tasty. I'm going to dig you out a phone number. It is underway. If you haven't signed up your kids, you can get applications at Guess Elementary, the Food Bank, Valley Schools, Valley Food Bank, Summit Valley School, and the Addie Food Bank. They're also going to be working with the Chihuahua Farmers Market, where the kids get a $5 voucher so they can access the fruits and vegetables they like on the Friday Farmers Market. Then they're going to have a fundraiser, and this is happening at Quartzsite Brewery on June 22nd from 3 to 7, a silent auction, and they're thanking Jake and Patrick for their support for this annual Tasty event. And this is their only fundraiser. More information, you like to volunteer, you need more details, 936-5818, 509-936-5818. All right, we've got the big guy that always comes in on Wednesdays, Mr. Mike Bentz. Mike, you always do our non-profit lowdown. And do you have some goodies for us today?
I do. It's busy.
All right, good. Good.
Actually, it's kind of the lull before the storm because I'm looking forward into July and just buckle up for July.
All right. All right. Got a lot of stuff going on. And just a side note, we do have the mayor showing up at 8 this morning. So keep it tight, boys.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's my specialty.
Okay. Well, let's get started with the Creative District. We have our art in full swing coming up on June 24th and 25th. And on the 24th, artists are going to be on the course in areas where the public can access them. They'll be showing people how they do their work, and it'll be from 10 to 1. So stop by the golf course, and there'll be a table out front in the clubhouse, so that it'll tell you where to go, and you'll be able to visit with the artists on site. And also, just as a sideline, I think we could probably use a few more volunteers. If you would like to volunteer for that on Saturday, just to point people where to go or maybe help people set up, you can get a hold of the Creative District at info@chihuahuacreativedistrict.org.
That is correct.
The best place. Okay. And then on Sunday, the clubhouse will be converted over to a gallery from 2 to 6, and all the art that's being done on Saturday will gravitate over to the clubhouse. And if you were at the one in January, you'll know that 13 or 14 artists will be in there, and it's a very successful showing in January, and we look forward to being a very successful one in June. Art classes are in the process of being set up and formed. The best place for adults to look for those is keep an eye on our website or our Facebook page. And so we have the funding to be able to do that. And we have RFPs out. I think we've got 3 or 4 artists that have said they would like to do classes. And now it's just the logistics of getting it put together. So that should be coming up in the future. And as always, there are memberships available to the public. You can go to our website. It's $25 a year. And we run very efficiently. So that $25 goes back into the Creative District to support anywhere from art in the schools to the facility to the upcoming art classes and things like that. So, Arts Guild, just to give people a taste of July, they're going to have their annual Children's Art Festival, and we'll be talking about that as we get closer to the 1st of July as far as dates are concerned. Chihuahua Center for the Arts, there again in July, Stage Time Theater School will be in July 10th to the 15th. You can sign up now by going to their website, and those classes will be from 9 to 12, and as I said, bring a bag lunch. And then on their website, they have their entire 2023-24 season, so you can take a look at their dynamic programming they have coming up for the next year. And I didn't see Chuck Ritchie's name in there as an actor in residence. Is that going to happen?
Oh, in the for the theater, well, there's a couple of shows coming up that I might take part in, but
Okay.
nothing current. No.
Okay. All right. As you would wear, school's out. So we don't have a whole lot on the school side until August. And Jerry's parents will be on the show in August to talk about what's happening going in to the school the next year. Just miscellaneous stuff. Co-working is every fourth Wednesday at the Yale Press from 11 to 2. This is designed for people that work from home or entrepreneurs, have their own business, and they want to get together with like-minded individuals and share stories or support or whatever they want to do over a cup of coffee. Library Tech Help is on Monday through Thursday from 3 to 5. Library Story Time is 11:30 on Tuesdays. Just to remind people, you have 2 weeks left of the City Parks and Rec Survey. And based on our conversation with Larry Federer last week, we had, I think he said 750 surveys in, which is phenomenal given a population of basically 2,500. So what that told me was people really do want to have a voice in the Parks and Rec's outcome. So, and the best place to get started is with that survey. And then, as he had mentioned last week, as he starts doing the public meetings, to keep an eye out at all the usual suspects as far as media is concerned and show up because your voice really does count. Mm-hmm. On the 24th, the Columbia Creamery, the Chewelah Columbia Creamery, is having their grand opening from 10 to 4 right across from the city park. I talked to Brad Schaefer the day before yesterday. And he's like a kid in a toy store. I mean, he was telling me about this 500-gallon pasteurized tank and all this equipment. And of course, I immediately went to say, well, what about ice cream?
Right.
And,
a kid in a candy store, or me in a cheese shop
is on the horizon. But they've got some separation things and they've got to get enough cream. And he went way more than I wanted to know. But that's on the horizon. They're really excited about it. He said their break even, I think they said they had to do about 300 gallons a month to meet their goals as far as the grants are concerned. And I think he said they had 4 dairies being participating, but probably more importantly is Brad and Virginia Thomas, who's a dairy owner, is going to be on the radio show next week.
Very cool.
Live in the studio. So get your questions put together and send them in to KCHW and we'll get a better feel of what that creamery looks like. And I went in and said, I just searched and said, how many creameries are there in Northeast Washington? Anybody want to guess?
I'm guessing now there will be one.
There'll be one. Yeah. Once you get out of Spokane, there's 2 or 3 of them in Spokane. But once you get north of Spokane, the Chuck got the prize. There will be one.
Wow.
So, and I grew up in that environment with dairy farms. So, I really am looking forward to that. And by the way, I don't know if they'll have it this time of the year, but they have the best eggnog in existence. So.
Oh, who has the best eggnog?
The what?
Did you say eggnog? Who has the
Eggnog.
best? Who has the best eggnog? Did you say?
Well, the Clover Dairy did, and they're one of the participants in the creamery.
Oh, nice.
So it was phenomenal. And then coming up also in July, just to kind of tease people, on July 15th, there's a festival going to be in the park called Fun in the Sun, and we'll have more information as we get closer to July.
Very cool.
So that's all the city stuff. If we go to the Rusty Putter, junior golf camp starts on Monday. I would call the clubhouse if you're kind of a late person to get registered and see if they have any openings, or go on a waiting list, because it's like anything. When you get 60 or 70 people sign up, there's a certain percentage that just can't make it. Mm-hmm. So there's still some opportunity there. The JHS 10-year high school reunions on the 17th. Father's Day is coming up on the 16th, and they're going to have a barbecue at the clubhouse with all the usual fixings, including smoked pork, because they've got their smoker up and running. And then coming up also in July, there'll be Pickleball Fest. That'll be about mid-July. And it'll actually be the first one in Northeast Washington and one of the very few in the state of Washington. So they're really looking forward to that. That's being pretty well promoted across the state and into Idaho. So I think that's a pretty popular sport, and people will be coming to Chewelah. So, as they say, put your best hat on and greet people with a handshake and a smile and send them over to the creamery. So,
very cool. Very cool.
Okay, that's what I got.
All right. I see one other on the calendar. We'll give them a plug here. Is the Colville Valley Animal Sanctuary having a drive-through shot clinic on Saturday between 10 and noon. I think that's the only thing that I had other than what Mike brought. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we have a dinner coming up tomorrow night. Put on by the Chewelah Faith Resource Group, and that is going to be at the Catholic Church at 5 o'clock. It's hamburgers and hot dogs, and the whole town is invited. So there's a free dinner tomorrow night at the Catholic Church.
Yeah, it's pretty calm weekend here. Like Mike was saying, I think it might be the calm before the storm here.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on Father's Day, so Mike, probably fun for you because you're closer to your kids, right?
I am, actually, except one of them is going to be in Yellowstone Park for a week, and the other one has to work.
That's no fun at all.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I will have to say, if anyone's driving through town, you notice all the flags are out because it is Flag Day today.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
great.
It's Flag Day. All the streets are downtown decorated with all the American flags and looking very patriotic out there today.
Super.
Yeah.
I have a couple news story headlines. One of them, kind of a public service announcement from the United States Postal Service. They're telling us not to put checks in the mail. They said scammers are stealing more than ever, draining bank accounts and causing big headaches for banks and account holders. Banks issued roughly 680,000 reports of check fraud last year from mail theft, up 350,000 from the year before. Postal Inspection Service reportedly roughly 300,000 complaints of mail theft in 2021, and now up to 680,000. Early in the pandemic, government relief checks became an attractive target for criminals. The problem has only gotten worse, and postal authorities and bank officials are warning Americans to avoid mailing checks if possible, or at least to use a secure mail drop, such as inside the post office. Putting them outside your house with a flag up, a bad idea if there is Chuck. And back in the olden days, I remember Mom used to, load up those birthday cards and maybe throw a 50 in it. Yeah. If you have outdoor mail, I remember one place I lived in Seattle, people were going through the neighborhood and just looking at mailboxes. And if there's a card in there, it's they'll take that one first off because they're hoping there's a check in there. Or there's cash. A 20, there's a 50. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so always a bad idea.
It's check literally a red flag.
Yeah. Check usage has been in decline for decades as Americans have relatively, pretty much switched to credit and debit cards. Americans wrote roughly 3.4 billion in checks in 2022. That's down nearly 19 billion checks from 1990.
Wow.
All right. Despite the declining use of checks in the United States, criminals have been increasingly targeting the U.S. mail since the pandemic to commit check fraud. All right. Checks are still frequently used by small businesses, they say on here, but declining more and more as mail theft goes up, as they're trying to, I guess, find the few that are out there that are left. Another one, if you're going on vacation this summer, Grand Canyon, known for its breathtaking vistas and being one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, it is also the deadliest national park in the USA.
I can see that.
People falling, right?
Yes, a whole bunch of stuff. There have been at least 6 people found dead and 56 missing persons in the Grand Canyon National Park from 2018 to February of 2023. Visitors filed about 1,100 missing person report in that time as well. Most of those people were found, but as I said, 6 of them weren't. They don't even know where these people are.
Wow.
Yeah, scary. Retired chief emergency. So go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, I thought it might be there's that glass platform that you can go over the top. I thought it might have been like someone looking down and having a heart attack.
We'll break it down for you here. Emergency services at the Arizona Park told the Post that people die from heat stroke, lightning, drowning on the river, suicides, accident falls, air crashes, and more. He estimated that during his time at the park, about 12 people died in the canyon each year. The number vastly different from the numbers provided by the people that did this story by the Department of the Interior. Last month, 36-year-old woman from Indiana died while attempting to hike to the Colorado River. They're saying that people are not prepared for how hot it gets out in the trails. Sometimes it can be even 120 degrees in the shade, and people try to make it to the river and back to the canyon, to the top of the canyon in one day, and park rangers are saying that's a bad idea. So if you're heading to that national park, be careful, and if you spot one of those missing 6 people, tell somebody.
Yeah. Well, I know one problem is you get down the bottom, down in that river, and then, if there's a rain or something further up, that water comes down that canyon faster than you can get out of the way.
Really fast, yeah.
And every week I've been covering a Yellowstone story for the past month about people messing with animals. And now Yellowstone's searching two guys that were harassing bears.
That's, man.
Yeah, I read that story where they were chasing the bears.
The bears. Probably not a good idea.
I always say I want to be remembered for something, but not a Darwin Award.
Yeah, exactly. Well, where I live, the grizzlies are coming out in Glacier Park, and they just opened the highway through the park, which normally doesn't open until July. So this is the earliest opening since 2005, actually. But it's almost comical to read the stories or see the little videos of people, thinking that grizzly is just a pet. Oh. I'm going to go up and pet it.
Leave them alone.
So like the woman who put her 4-year-old on top of a buffalo a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't take a picture. Yeah. And it's not like they don't get warnings. I don't know if the last time you went to Yellowstone Park, but you can't get in that place without being inundated with, all kinds of different things in different languages about leave the wildlife alone.
Right.
So,
they just don't get it.
They just don't get it.
Read the sign, people.
Oh, it's so cute. That 2,500-pound buffalo.
So get yourself a zoom lens and take a picture from a distance.
Right.
If you want to see cute bears, go through South Dakota. They're a huge tourist trap there around Rapid City, and they've got the Bear Country Zoo drive-through zoo. You get to see all sorts of animals, wolves, and of course it ends with the bears. And as you're leaving the drive-through zoo, there's I want to call it a giant hot tub made out of rock as you're leaving the zoo, and there's usually 4 to 5 bears sitting in there, but they look like they're drinking beer. They got their arms up on the ledges like they're having a conversation, and they're all cool and happy with it, but it's just you get to drive out and wave at them. It's pretty cool.
My mother-in-law once at a wildlife preserve in Alaska hit a bear in the nose with an Oreo cookie. And that bear just did like a double blink at her and picked up that Oreo cookie and glared straight at her as it ate that Oreo cookie. Like,
and said, "Where's more?"
I'm going to eat this, but I'm not going to like it.
I got stalked by a squirrel yesterday. That was scary enough. I think he had rabies. And then I'm thinking, he's gone. And then I see him lean around the tree and glare at me.
Why do I picture you like going out to check the mail in your tidy whities, and all of a sudden a squirrel starts chasing you, and there's Scott running down the street in his underwear being chased by a squirrel? That's the
exactly.
That's the image I get in my head.
It's so easy going here. I didn't say anything, but I did yesterday's entire show in my underwear.
Oh, good. I better put some pants on before the mayor gets here.
Now, when you come in the studio, keep your pants on. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, well.
All right. Let's see. My kids have told me, though, I can go out and check the mail in my jammies, and it's okay because I'm old. Wow.
Yeah, fuzzy slippers.
I do.
They look like little beavers.
Yes. They make sounds when I walk.
Right.
All right. A couple kind of political stories here after yesterday, which I have proudly named June 13th now. Forever shall be Indictment Day. What do you celebrate? I had a big party at my house last night, too, but I have no friends here, so nobody showed up.
Just Scott.
Me and Marion had a good time, though.
Yeah.
All right. Former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly said that the former President Trump is scared after Trump pleaded not guilty to federal charges related to his handling of classified materials yesterday. He actually used a different word that goes after scared. He says this is the way he compensates for his ego. He said he gives people the appearance he doesn't care by making all the crazy comments and accusations. Following his arraignment yesterday in Miami, Trump greeted supporters at a restaurant, then returned to his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, to deliver remarks to a crowd. In a Tuesday evening speech, he unloaded on special counsel Jack Smith, who brought the 37-count indictment against the former president, calling him a deranged lunatic and a thug and a raging, uncontrolled Trump hater. For the first time in his life, he added, it looks like he's being, or no, this is Kelly talking. He says, for the first time in his life, it looks like Trump's being held accountable. Up until this point in his life, it's like, I'm not going to pay you. Take me to court. Mm-hmm. He's never been held accountable before, so he says he's actually scared this time. Kelly served as Trump's chief of staff from 2017 to 2019, became increasingly critical of his former boss since leaving the administration, reportedly describing the former president as the most flawed person he's ever known. Ouch. All right.
I mean, yeah.
Who's the most flawed person you've ever known?
Personally? Oh, gosh. I'm going to go with myself on that one, probably. No. All right. No, not.
A group of Republicans, my last story here, also turning up the heat on the former president. A Republican group opposed to Donald Trump is giving some of the former president's biggest supporters an unfiltered look at the charges against him. The Republican Accountability Project said its latest video will air on Fox News during prime time last night and then for a few more days after Trump is arraigned on his charges. Now, you might have caught this commercial. It's going to keep running a little while longer on Fox, believe it or not. Well, most of the right-wing cable networks hosts have tried to justify, excuse, and downplay the former president's actions. The new ad bluntly lays out some of the accusations for him and ends with, no one is above the law. Accountability Project is spending nearly $500,000 to run the new ad on the former president. So I guess you watch for that on your TV. All right, let's see. We got a few minutes yet before the mayor gets there, so it's time for trivia.
Ooh.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Chuck and Mike.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I have them answered immediately.
Immediately, boys. No messing around. First one up.
This is very serious stuff here.
Yes.
Okay. 1.5 billion gallons of this stuff is made in the U.S. each year. Mike loves it. What is it?
Milk.
Beer.
No, you were just talking about it today.
Milk.
Close.
Ice cream.
Heavy cream.
Ice cream.
Ice
There you
cream.
go.
Okay.
Ice cream. Can't believe you couldn't remember.
I don't think of ice cream by the gallon. I think of it by like the quart or the pint, which I guess is just different units of the same measurement.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, when I grew up, it was always in a gallon.
Yeah.
But it was a big family, you know.
I got ice cream last night, and I said 1 scoop, and she looked at me like I was nuts. Actually turned around and went, 1 scoop?
You know you're just going to go back for another.
I want 1 scoop, gluten-free, and no lactose.
And no what would lactose-free ice cream taste like?
I have no idea.
You know, there's a couple of the brands that make really good non-dairy ice creams that are actually pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it's called ice flavored. 85% of men who die while making love have what in common, gentlemen?
A smile.
Ooh, Chuck.
Heart problems.
That's what happened in the
problems.
What do you say?
Heart problems.
Heart problems. No.
Out of shape.
Aneurysm?
No. This is amazing to me. It's bad. 85% of men who die while making love have this in common. 85%, and it's not good.
Is it drugs in their system?
No.
No.
Equally not as good though.
Alcohol.
No. Man.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah. They're cheating.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
85% of men who die while doing that are cheating.
Oh, that's worse than drugs
Yeah.
and alcohol. Wow.
Yeah, they should just go home and do this.
Quiet! I can't hear myself lie!
Sorry. All right.
Wow.
When it first appeared on the market in 1886, what was billed as an esteemed brain tonic and intellectual beverage when it hit the market in 1886?
Dr. Pepper.
Coca-Cola.
All right. What'd you say, Mike?
Coca-Cola.
And what'd you say, Chuck?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Cola gets it, Mr. Coca-Cola. There you go. First one of these in 1938 was just 25 cents. There should be a better way to word that to give you a hint. The first one of these in 1938 was just the first time they instituted this in 1938. It was just 25 cents. What was it?
Telephone call.
No, sir.
They instituted it.
Yeah. This was
Concert ticket.
This was instituted in 1938, and it was just 25 cents.
Property tax.
Income tax.
You're getting warmer, Mike. I mean, Chuck was a little warm. You're getting warmer. It's not income tax, though. Would relate to it.
Social Security.
I'm sure this was yours when you were young. Where was your first job, Mike?
Social Security.
What was your first job?
Oh, my first job was a paying job where I had to declare the income.
Okay.
I was in a gas station.
How did I know that? I was going to say your first job at a gas station would probably be this.
Right.
First one was instituted in 1938. It was just 25 cents. What was it?
Like an excise tax?
25 cents per hour.
Oh, okay.
Per hour.
Per hour. It was the minimum wage in 1938. Can we find out how much you were making at the gas station, Mike?
In 1965, it was $1.25.
Wow.
But then I got raised to $1.75 when I worked for Sears.
Wow.
Ooh. Wow.
Very nice.
Wow. So I'm guessing my dad probably was, he was born in 1928. He probably was making like 50 cents an hour minimum wage if he was lucky. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Breakfast bingo, you boys. 5 questions. Each answer begins with the corresponding letter in the word bingo. Mike, you're first. A type of firework that flies into the air.
The type of what?
Fireworks that flies into the air.
My mind just went blank.
Chuck, help him out.
Bottle rocket.
Bottle rocket.
Okay.
All right.
I was thinking
All right.
boomstick, but, that's a different movie.
Someone, Mike, then it's back to you. Someone who works a job for experience and little or no money.
Intern.
How many interns have you had, Mike?
Lots.
Are you in that 85%, Mike?
Oh.
Oh, I'm just kidding. This is a bad joke.
Wow.
Look, it made me turn red. The singer named Willie.
Nelson.
Nelson.
All right. A former vice president. A recent one.
George.
With a G.
Gore.
Gore is it.
Gore. Okay.
And someone who sees a glass as half full.
Optimist.
All right. Together, you guys barely spelled bingo.
We managed.
All right. Which one's the lie here? The bite of a brown recluse spider can require over 3 years to heal. The top grossing movie of 2022 was Top Gun Maverick. President Andrew Jackson spent most of his adult life with a bullet inside of him. All right. Which one's the lie there?
The Top Gun Maverick.
I'm hoping it's the Top Gun Maverick.
It's true. Top Gun Maverick was the top grossing movie of 2022. Regarding President Andrew Jackson, it was the result of a duel he fought before becoming president. It rested about 2 inches from his heart, so they were afraid to remove it. So he lived most of his adult life with a bullet inside of him, which means brown recluse spider doesn't require 3 years to heal. It's a lie. But it is over 2 months.
I thought it was a really long time. I guess it depends on the after infections.
Your infections?
Well, secondary infections. You get I had a neighbor who got bit by a hobo spider, which has a very similar bite, and it took him ages to recover. But
wow. So we have the infamous East Coast black flies here, and people react to them differently. Me and my daughter, Marion, we all react very poorly to these flies. I think when you get bit, it's about a 2-week span. The first 5 days with the lump half the size of a softball wherever it bit you, and then as the 2 weeks go by, it slowly gets smaller. But vicious bites.
Wow.
All right, let's roll into our break a little bit early because our mayor is joining us for our next segment. Greg McCunn will be in and going to be talking about some good stuff going on with the city. So stay right here on Northern Lights Public Radio. It's KCHW Chewelah 102.7. Hit it, Chuck.
It's 8:02.
You're listening to Northern Lights Public Radio on 102.7 KCHW, Chewelah, Springdale, Welpinit.
It's 8:02.
Your KCHW morning show is made possible by donations from Chewelah Flooring.
Chewelah Flooring at 214 East Clay in the 3rd Street Mall offers a wide variety of products including carpet, ceramic and porcelain tile, vinyl and laminate planks, and vinyl sheet flooring. Chewelah Flooring carries products for both commercial businesses and residential homes, including brands like National Flooring, Dell Tile, Mannington, and Mohawk. They also offer blind repair. For more information, you can visit online at ChewelahFlooring.com, call 509-935-8021, or via email at ChewelahFlooring@gmail.com.
Your KCHW morning show made possible by a donation from God-Fearing Brothers Auto Center. God-Fearing Brothers specializes in auto services, including repair, maintenance, and detailing. They also stock a full selection of tires, make glass repairs, offer towing, and have an auto sales lot on the corner of Highway 395 and Main Street at the light. For more information, you can visit the Auto Service Center at 806 East Main in Chewelah. Find them online at godfearingbrothers.com or by phone at 509-935-6414. KCHW-FM thanks God-Fearing Brothers for supporting public radio in Stevens County.
This is KCHW, Chewelah, 102.7 FM.
The Public News Service Daily Newscast, June the 14th, 2023. I'm Mike Clifford. Working folks are fighting to find child care that meshes with their work schedules. The Annie E. Casey Foundation's 2023 Kids Count Data Book ranks Indiana 24th in the nation for child well-being.
Indiana Youth Institute CEO Tammy Silverman says Indiana is one of 33 states where infant care is more expensive than in-state tuition at public colleges.
It's also a workforce issue. So when families can't access that quality, safe health care, they might have to step back from a job or leave a job or not take a job that could benefit their family. So it's both an individual and a developmental issue for the child, and it's also a family and then an economic issue.
The report ranks Indiana 13th in education, up 4 points from last year. Silverman describes it as the bright spot in the findings. I'm Joe Ullery reporting.
The stats show child care workers are paid worse than 98% of professions. Meantime, compared to other states, Iowa ranks number 6 nationally in overall child well-being.
The data book compiles information on 16 indicators in 4 areas. Iowa scored well overall, making the top 10 in 3 of the 4 categories. But Ann Disher with Common Good Iowa says access to affordable child care remains a low point, driven by poor provider wages, which makes attracting and retaining quality, reliable workers challenging.
Child care workers who are offered parents themselves are paid worse than workers in 98% of professions. In Iowa, the median hourly wage for child care workers was $10.99 an hour.
In the data book, Iowa ranks 3rd in the category of families' economic well-being, 9th in education, 9th in family and community, and 11th in overall health. Disher says Iowans expect to do well in child well-being studies like Kids Count, but points out the areas for improvement are significant and should be addressed in the coming year. Disher says there still are some critical areas of concern in the state.
We were middle of the pack at best on teen birth rate. We ranked 23rd. We ranked 25th among the states on the share of 3- and 4-year-olds attending preschool.
I'm Mark Moran.
While Iowa scores the best on-time high school grad rates in the country, it also has the lowest share of kids living in households with high housing costs. Now, Dateline Miami, Donald Trump pleaded not guilty Tuesday to federal charges that he broke the law dozens of times by keeping and hiding top-secret documents in his Florida home. The judge said he planned to order the former president not to have any contact with witnesses in the case or his co-defendant Walt Natta. This is Public News Service. Conservation groups are asking the California legislature to pull a number of budget trailer bills they say amount to backroom deals to loosen environmental standards in order to facilitate infrastructure projects.
The deadline to pass a budget is this Thursday. Governor Gavin Newsom argues that the state needs to streamline environmental reviews in order to meet deadlines to apply for federal matching funds for infrastructure projects. Ashley Overhouse with the group Defenders of Wildlife says big policy changes should be handled instead as regular bills in the next legislative session in January.
We all agree that our planet is indeed facing a climate crisis and that we need to move forward with climate infrastructure quickly. However, there is no reason why legislation to tackle these important issues must be moved through this trailer bill process instead of the regular process.
I'm Suzanne Potter.
Meantime, South Carolina is joining forces with neighboring states in an effort to save one of the country's most important ecosystems, salt marshes. That new initiative plans to protect about 1 million acres of salt marsh habitat along the southeast coast. Laura Clark, an officer with the Pew Charitable Trust, says the plan will help conserve critical species and provide environmental and economic benefits for South Carolina.
I think it's important for people to understand the many benefits of salt marsh. Like fishing is an important part of our economy. And salt marshes provide food, shelter, and nursery grounds for more than 75% of our commercial and recreational fish species.
According to the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, salt marshes work to cleanse coastal waters by filtering out pollutants and silt. The state has more than 350,000 acres of salt marsh. That is the most of any in the Southeast. Finally, Catherine Carley lets us know support staff in public schools across the Bay State have created a Bill of Rights.
Known as ESPs or paraeducators, they do it all. Teach, help students with disabilities, clean classrooms, and serve as a teacher's second set of ears and eyes. Michaela Keefe is a paraeducator in Hingham, Massachusetts, where she hopes their Bill of Rights will help convince the local school committee to ensure what she calls a living wage for staff.
We love the kids. We love what we're doing, but we just want them to understand that we're not getting paid what we're worth. Some of us are just scraping by.
Keefe says the MIT living wage calculator shows staff need at least $45,000 to get by, yet current ESP salaries run between $19,000 and $25,000.
This is Mike Clifford for Public News Service, member and listener supported. Here's on interesting radio stations, your favorite podcast platform. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
Welcome back to the morning show. We have our mayor here, Greg McCoon.
Good morning, everybody.
Is it McCoon or McCoon? I'm sorry. McCoon. That's what. Sorry,
it's all right.
I think I pronounced it wrong.
You won't be the first or the last.
So anyway, yes, it's we have the mayor here. We have Scott and Mike. Talk to us about some stuff going on with the city today.
Good morning, Scott and Mike. Good to see your faces.
Good morning, Greg. Nice to have you here again. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. As we get started today, Mr. Mayor, you had a list that you sent us today of a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Tell us about, I guess the first one on your list was business econ. You have DTRS and the Property and Business Owners Forum. This sounds interesting.
You bet. And just to level set, as mayor, from the beginning through the campaign, there were really 5 areas that I would say the people elected me to pursue, and that's business economic development, municipal code enforcement, celebrations, communication, and youth. So every time I'm on, I'm going to follow that format to try to stay true to what I was asked to operate in and kind of talk about the details. So on the business economic development front, DTRS, a new acronym that may enculturate in Chewelah, is the Downtown Retail Strategies. That's the third-party consultant that we hired in partnership with the Chamber to come in, excuse me, and help us kind of begin the development process of our brand. Mm-hmm. What are the characteristics that make Chewelah the place that we love? How do we define those? And how do we, most importantly, perhaps preserve them, especially in the face of growth? So in a broad sense, that is what that effort is. This morning, a couple things I want to plug are the Property and Business Owners Stakeholders Input Forum. The large team of individuals who have been pursuing the deliverables for Downtown Retail Strategies, the Chewelah 5-year revitalization plan, are really wanting to get business owners and property owners specifically in Chewelah together to maybe hold ourselves accountable to speak directly to that stakeholder group about the types of initiatives that are going on, mm-hmm. And most importantly, to receive their input. Our hope in doing this kind of an outreach is to not just provide the information and gain their input, but also, hopefully, to engage with them. And in a long-term way. In reality, the work of revitalization and the preservation of our historic brand in what would be our economic district, if we could call it that, mm-hmm. say Main Street and Park.
Right.
The business and property owners are really the drivers there. They are the stakeholders that make the economy of Chewelah turn.
Right.
And a lot of them, for one reason or another, haven't been engaged. So we want to do our best to try to get there. So we're creating an event. It's going to be at the Civic Center on July 11th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. If you're listening this morning and you are a business or property owner in Chewelah, you can expect a knock on the door during your business hours where one of us is going to come by and personally invite you to come to this stakeholders input session again on July 11th at 5:30 p.m. We're going to keep it tight. There's mm-hmm. going to be 4 5-minute presentations, each of those followed by 10 minutes of input from the audience. That'll leave us about 30 minutes at the end. Carrie from Fired Up Pizza has offered to cater the event.
Cool.
She will also bring a mini beer garden there
Nice.
To create a social atmosphere, because for that last 30 minutes what we're going to do is have individual tables set up according to the different segments of the work being done, so
Mm-hmm.
that those business property owners can really engage personally with that, go to that team of people doing the work,
Wow.
ask, provide input, and again, hopefully get engaged and get involved, because I think most of us agree that things are changing.
Right.
And the more involved we are, the more we create that future together. So that's really the intention there.
Right. And you pointed on one thing that I think is important is to be able to grow, to be able to get Chewelah up where we should sort of be. But we don't need to expand Chewelah. We can work with what we have, mm-hmm. but just make it, modernize it, make us a little more economically viable than we have
it's
been.
kind of you want to harness vitality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of putting it you want to harness vitality.
Yeah.
Vitality is something that can kind of run away from you. And I think a lot of people who come to Chewelah and are heart struck, as we all are, and that's what I like to call it, and want to be here, that can run away from you. And a lot of times people who come into like Mountain Market when we're open will say they're from formerly quaint little towns. I don't ever want to be a formerly quaint little town.
No.
I want to be a vibrant, successful Chewelah.
Right.
And I think that's what most of our citizens want. And I think we can have that.
Right.
There's a measure that you can control and some you can't, but I think we're in a good spot right now.
Right, and I think there's a lot of people that get upset at the idea of us growing and becoming, like this big city. But that's the people that are doing this. This is taking steps to make sure that's not the point. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, well, I think it's stewarding growth is really what it is, and it isn't to say we're not going to grow. We need to grow. We really need to grow. We really need housing, and that's growth. We really need a larger diversity of businesses. One person said we don't need one employer that employs 250 people.
Right.
We need 25 employers who employ 10.
Exactly.
Right. That's vibrancy. That's rural America. And that is really the direction that a lot of rural towns in America are succeeding with. So we plan to kind of steward in that same direction. And I think we've got to.
Do you think Chewelah would ever be, when looking at that growth, and I had a friend who used to live in Chewelah, and as he watched things change, and really the Chewelah has changed so much in the past 10 years. It's really became beautiful.
Yeah.
You see some of these, and his quote was that, we're going to be like a little sand point and stuff. What I've seen with some smaller communities that are, I don't want to say tourist traps, but are heavily devoted to tourism, you see them block some of the chain stores from coming into a community. I know years ago, I think when Walmart went into Colville, they were looking at Chewelah, and I can't remember why they picked Colville. But you see some of these communities that are devoted to tourism leaning toward more mom and pop businesses and actually passing laws that will keep big, or I don't know if it'd be codes that actually keep big box stores out of the community. Do you think that's a direction that Chewelah might someday go in?
I know there's a lot of passion around the subject and a lot of different opinions. And I would say it is possible. I think there's enough head of steam for concern for big box stores showing up in the valley and the corresponding impact that would have. It's always a double-edged sword. The tax base, the diversity of offerings, the convenience of all that is attractive to some.
Right.
To others, it's kind of the opposite of what rural America is. Rural America's heartbeat is really small business,
right?
Meaning typically less than 25 employees. In the United States, a small business is defined as less than 500. So, the measuring stick matters.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I've learned is as you look at the valley, 99109, you call Chewelah home, right? City limits 2,400 people, but arguably we're touching 10,000 lives. And you start to look at the land and what surrounds it. The Growth Management Act, our Colville River going through the valley, Chewelah Creek, the farm land that is designated farmland. We have some really kind of convenient barriers to a lot of that. One person I was talking to from county said it would be almost impossible to launch a Walmart in Chewelah Valley.
Oh.
And that was from a land management standpoint.
That's devastating.
Well, some of your audience might feel differently, so I want to respect that.
That's true.
As mayor, again, there's two sides of every argument.
That's fair.
But yes, those are some of the things I've learned about it. As a working mayor, I have a small business here, and I know that we would have, likely and anticipate a real negative impact if a lot of those goods that we sell were all of a sudden available through some big box stores. So I know a lot of business owners feel like that, and I think it's an important topic to consider. I'm glad you brought it up, Scott.
All right. The next one you had on your list, nobody likes these two words, municipal code.
Well, I'm not going to go there yet, if you don't mind. I got one more thing, and it's a big thing for listeners this morning, and first to be announced here on KCHW is that as part of the downtown retail strategies work, one of the key deliverables is the facade improvement program. We've wanted to position ourselves, and this just isn't a city government thing, this is as a chamber, as a business community, and as city government, as a business-friendly town. It was a place where entrepreneurs want to do business because culturally it's a healthy place to do business. Part of that is creating incentives for businesses that are doing good things. And the facade improvement program I get to announce here today is right now officially launched. What
That's fantastic.
Facade improvement program is for any business on Main Avenue or off of 395, if they endeavor to pursue improving their facade. There has been approved up to $2,000 matching grant funds for up to 5 businesses. So the City Council approved through ARPA funds $10,000 set aside just for this purpose. And so I'd recommend, Scott, maybe having Don Olson on for a 5-10 minute slot. He could go through the full details of the program because I think they're kind of important. And listeners might have additional questions, but I did want to announce the launch today. By this afternoon, there will be paper copies of the information and applications at the City Hall window.
Nice.
And individuals with questions can email their questions to fipchihuila@gmail.com. And that's Facade Improvement Program, FIP.
Okay.
Chihuila@gmail.com. But excited to announce one of 3 different deliverables that are coming out very soon, and we'll be launching more at the July 11th meeting. So
that's
cool.
great. Yeah, I know you guys have been working hard on that.
So Greg, and maybe you can't speak this, but one of the things on that facade improvement program was the palette of colors.
Yeah.
And so is that all tied back into it so that if somebody applies for that grant, which when you say matching, I assume is a one-to-one match,
Yep.
that they have to follow some kind of palette so I don't have a pink building on Main Street?
Right. Yeah. So the Retail Strategies Group, in consultation with a large group of community members and business owners, took samples of all the existing colors that represent Chihuila, and those would be kind of the historic palette. That's coalesced into kind of 12 base colors. There's a broader palette that follows the same hue of each of those. And yes, Mike, those are tied in. The facade improvement program is really a scoring system. It's not a mandate, you have to do this and this, but for doing this, this, and this, you get more points. And more points means you're more likely to win. We already have 4 people who are kind of chomping at the bit to apply. So I think it's going to be pretty popular. So it's a carrot program.
Right.
We're positively incentivizing the change that we want to see, and doing that through a facade program. So that is represented in there. One of the things that those who apply and are, it doesn't have to be painting, right? It could be a awning, it could be brickwork. Any facade that you're going to improve would qualify.
Signs, would that include a sign? Signage? Probably not.
Potentially.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little more comprehensive than just hanging a sign.
Right.
But there's once you get into the application, we're going to link people to kind of some professional design ideas that help match. Well, if I'm choosing from colors, do I do how do I do trim versus base?
Right.
Because there's different philosophies about how you approach that, and you can see, well, here are the 3 different philosophies. Here's the one I like. Here's the one I feel like fits best. So it's really kind of a cool. The whole program's really a fun tool to enhance facades in town, and with what we've already got going on. I think it's going to be pretty energizing. So
no, for these colors, just to sort of clarify, do they have to be painted these colors, or incorporate elements of those color design into their designs?
Well, if you think of a color palette, so think of Sherwin-Williams. They can take our 12, let's just call them historic colors,
right?
And then there's a broader, so those are 12.
Right.
There's a broader, say, I don't know if it's 50 or 100 arguable distinct colors that follow that same hue and fit that collage of historic representation. So you kind of start with the tight core, but like your trim options and things like that can expand out. And the closer you stay within the palette design, and it's a Sherwin-Williams palette, the higher you score.
And there is still going to be some opportunity to have more colorful, more vibrant things. Because I know, like, when I bought my house, it was beige on beige on beige. And that seemed to be the color of Chewelah at the time when I first moved here was beige on beige on beige.
Yeah.
And
so,
nobody wants that.
Yeah. Well, pick up an application, you take a look at the color palette. And I think with the broad historic palette, it gives you a lot of different options. So.
Cool.
Yep, so that should be good. All right, Scott, now we can go on to everybody's favorite subject.
Municipal code and enforcement in the Chewelah Police Department.
No, it's, I really like how, municipal code enforcement, I wish there was a title that was more energizing than that. That was a hot topic for people because you could travel through Chewelah and you would see really flagrant violations of existing municipal code. That had never been enforced. So you could
Sorry.
Chuck's throwing himself on the sword.
Chuck's yard.
Sorry.
And what you have to ask yourself is that fair to the neighbor?
Right, exactly.
I get to live in a free society as long as it's not impinging on the freedoms of my neighbor. And so we, again, are much more about a carrot approach. This is a lot of times municipal code enforcement issues need compassion. They need help. And so we want to do, as a city, as much as we can, but it's really the community kind of coming together, and where we need to help, let's build those teams of people who can help. And there's some ideas bubbling about creating those teams to solve there. Then there's those who just kind of don't care. And that's a little different situation. But Andy Harbolt is doing a phenomenal job. He's got 3 years experience in Medical Lake of doing this, and he had a 90% success rate. His approach is a very kind approach. It's a stepwise approach, and it's kind of as long as you're making progress approach to it. So, really proud of what's going on there. Andy is, for the 3 days a week that he's in the office, is getting a heck of a lot done.
Very cool.
So.
Well, like you said, that you can affect other people's property values. You can affect the safety of other people's property. Absolutely. That sort of thing. So it's like you're saying,
there can be health code violations, all sorts of stuff. It's kind of a fascinating rule. And some of those, we've got abandoned homes that have been abandoned for 20 years.
Right.
They still have an owner.
Right.
They just haven't been here for 20 years.
Right.
And so what we've got, and it's now boarded up, but it's right behind City Hall.
Yeah.
This had become a place where all sorts of people, including youth, were kind of wandering in and out of this place. I took a tour of it, and I'm telling you, gang, it's really dangerous.
Yeah.
You don't want anybody going in there. It's unsafe. So those things are getting dealt with, and we're making good progress. When you pay attention to things that haven't been paid attention to in years, most people, like 90% of people, are like, oh, yep, I'm on it.
Yep.
And so that's really encouraging, and it makes it a funner subject, even though the title isn't very sexy. And then the other subject on the enforcement front is, we are now operating with a full police department.
Okay.
That's the first time in over 2 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Yeah. Round of applause for that. So, we have such, and the blessing is that it is so well balanced. We have over 40 years of policing experience between our new chief Keith Cochran and Sergeant David Watts.
Can I give a big round of applause for our new chief there too?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
We were going to reach out and see if you wanted to be on the show.
When I saw it, I kind of did a backflip, just because I got to know Keith as a neighbor. Rather than, from the sheriff's office for being in trouble or something like that. And just to him as a person, he is a wonderful man, a great father. I got to, watch his kids grow up there, living beside him, and just being in Chewelah and having their kids in school with mine. And when I saw that, I was like, what a perfect match. So,
nice.
What a good choice.
Yeah, and Chuck mentioned maybe having him on the show. I think that would be a fantastic move for your listeners to be able to get to know him, and I couldn't agree more with your comments. He's a great addition. We've got kind of our mid-tenured team with Alex Lever and Sam Harding, both very strong officers, 3 and 7 years respectively on their tenure, and then we have Andrea Smith and Kate Middlesworth, literally just out of the academy. May 15th, they'll finalize their field training end of August and be fully commissioned. So we've got this really balanced team, and what's really cool is our Chewelah Police Department is a department that officers want to be part of.
Yeah. And is she the first female officer in Chewelah?
Oh, I don't know if historically she
Okay.
is. I think so, but
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. One time we said first ever, and then we got a rather upset wife. It was a first K-9 officer when Officer Miller regrettably left the department. We had quoted him as being the first K-9 officer, and then we found out afterwards that 15 years prior there was an officer who had a K-9. So we were rather abruptly. So I've kind of given up on first evers.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
That's it on the enforcement front.
Very cool.
All right. And celebrations, what's coming our way next? You guys kind of took off with a bang. Got a couple great celebrations for the community under your belt. What's next?
So we've got a lot coming at us this summer. It's developing differently than the Fall Fest and Winter Fest. That was coordinated, through Chewelah Festival Association, the city, and the chamber, and we're really chasing this. Okay, we're going to do 4 festivals per year. We got 2 under our belt and realized that you get one done and you're already behind on planning the next one if you're going to do 4 years. So we ran into some time pressures and stuff and agreed to kind of pause for summer. Well, not a day after that decision, Dakota McQuain shows up in City Hall. He's the assistant basketball coach, grew up in Chewelah, now is the assistant basketball coach at Jenkins. And he puts together one of the most organized event plans that I've ever seen.
Is that the 3-on-3?
And it's the 3-on-3 tournament, which is courtside 3-on-3, COURT.
Yes.
ITE. SITE. 3-on-3 tournament. And that is scheduled for August 12th. And yes, the flyer is in hand.
I've got the flyer in my hand right now.
And would really encourage him to, have him come on the show and talk about the details and the design. And what's really impressive is he is so incredibly networked, not just across the Northwest. I mean, he has got contacts in the basketball world. So
Very cool.
We're looking forward with a lot of excitement that this could become really the summer festival, the festival planning team. Which is our tourism promotion team, which Mike was a big part of. We're really designing. We want to kind of have each festival represent who we are, and so we're targeting a Huckleberry Festival in the summertime, and then build out, much like Winterfest, much like Fall Fest, our brand, our culture, and invite people to come celebrate that.
Yeah.
Well, with this happening, and likely as big as it's going to be, I think this is going to be our launch-off point for that summer festival.
Right.
I'm also different people leading and planning there. Dakota McQuain is the person leading that effort, and he'd be the contact for information or questions. There's also a Fun in the Sun fair that's getting some press July 15th in the park. I believe it's Shannon Simpson who is putting that on. I truly don't know much about it. I've just started to see flyers around.
Right.
So I know when Mike was doing the work with the tourism promotion group, one of the things that you have to start to wrestle with is there's so many events going on in the summer. It's almost more like a series of events.
Right.
And Mike, maybe you want to talk to kind of what that started to look like, but I thought it was really intriguing.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that needs to be addressed, if it's not already, is a community calendar where everybody can access it so you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then because I think you've got pretty decent communication channels as far as you got the radio and you've got the chamber newsletter and you've got so many organizations that can piggyback on top of that. Because I'm like you, I saw this Fun in the Sun thing, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago. And I'm thinking, okay, what is it? It sounds like a great event. It's on a fantastic day. It's in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
And so how do you coordinate that with like the Pickleball Fest, which is right around the same time? And so you don't have a one and done type mentality, so you can build on top of it. But, and I know that was one of on the tourism arm of the retail strategies, one of the goals was to fund a common calendar. And I don't know where that's at, because obviously I don't live there anymore, but hopefully that's moving ahead.
It is. It is, and it
You know,
continues.
and so that these people can have access and put it on there, and then keep it updated and keep it published.
Yep.
Where is this central calendar? Who? Because we've tried to do this before and it didn't work out very well. Who is going to be in charge of the central calendar for Chewelah?
So I'm glad you referenced the past valiant efforts to do this. It is a valiant effort. You know, it seems so simple when you talk about it, but then you get into the weeds of putting it together, maintaining it, and all that, and it's highly complex. So Melissa Allerdings is leading the tourism promotion group for the revitalization work. They are taking on not only syncing up the calendar, but trying to sync up what is our web representation for Chewelah, what is our social media representation, does that representation really represent what we want it to,
right?
And how do we bring that together? So that is still evolving. There isn't a set answer saying, hey, you can go to this URL and always see a clear calendar. I will tell you the Chamber of Commerce calendar has been the most comprehensive, consistent one that I've seen, and they've done a great job. But we need to do better, and that work is ongoing. So one of the things that, and we had meant to have the Business and Property Owners Forum sooner. The thing that we were running into, and this is something I'd like to share with your listeners, is Chewelah has the problem of an abundance of riches when it comes to passionate, motivated, talented people forming groups to get good stuff done. In fact, there's 26 of those in Chewelah.
Wow.
Right. That's a big number, and I've got them all on a bubble chart, thanks to Larry Fetter. But you try to organize those bubbles in a format where you could increase awareness and communication across those 26 groups, and again, it becomes really complicated. So we kept pushing off this forum because we're like, well, I think these business owners are kind of tired of all these groups bumping into each other, duplicating efforts. Mike, to your point, having a festival and not knowing the other festivals going on, and we're really committed to increasing communication through a calendar, through a web presence, and through just common culture of connecting dots as we go to and fro throughout our community. It's not going to be easy, but I think if we all kind of identify that's our biggest obstacle, I think we can overcome it. But there's not going to be a, put a pin in it solution.
Right. There's a lot of recreating the wheel happening.
Yeah.
There is maybe different things that we could get people that want to like the radio station, because we get requests for public service announcements. We always need to have our own contact form that goes into a piece of software we use online that we can always access the people that have sent in the request for public service announcements. So we wouldn't want to give that up, but I would be totally okay with having a link. When people go to leave us that request for airtime, that there's a link there that says, hey, here is a community-wide calendar you should post your event on as well. And being, having that one focal point, if we can get to that where everything's funneled into one spot. So it would be so good for the radio station and the people that are using it, because it's going to get there, as long as it's not of a hugely commercial nature, it's going to get on the air. And what people know that, hey, if it ends up here, it's going to end up in the newspaper, it's going to end up on the radio. I think it's something as we move forward that like we said, it's been tried before, but we need to come up with something concrete. And then maybe everybody, like I'm saying, on their own individual websites, post this calendar as well too. So when someone comes to you individually and says, hey, can you get the word out about this? We can also share where you can go to maybe a bigger hub to get that word out.
Right. And the more places that's available, the more, because one of the problems again is submissions, people actually submitting their things to a calendar.
Absolutely. Yep. And then if we enculturate that and get the communication out, then that's just feeding into one place. That is a fantastic post, Scott. I'll talk to Melissa Allerdings and maybe sync the two of you and Chuck up with that concept and see if we can't get lift there. That's a great ad. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're kind of talking about communication. Are you ready to move in that direction?
I am.
All right. And one of them you mentioned on here, emergency alert system.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the nationwide alert system or something new?
Local.
Okay.
Take us back. Was it today is Wednesday? Was it Sunday that things started getting dicey with the weather, or was it Saturday night?
I think it was the big storm we had was Thursday. That's what took us.
Okay,
out.
there you go. That's how the mayor's brain works.
But things stayed wonky over the weekend.
So I don't know. Not a lot of people got out and about immediately after. That's kind of something I do just to kind of check on what's going on. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing that makes me more proud of our community than when I see our crews out in any emergency setting. I mean, not only are they out there, practically before it's over, but they're getting after it. But when you engage them in that kind of work, which isn't fun,
right?
It really isn't fun. You're wet, you're dirty, it's hard. Everything's a surprise. It's complex. There's a ton of pressure because there's a clock running. To a man and a woman, everybody working has a good attitude, and they are absolutely there. This is what we do. This is why we're here. So it makes me really proud, and I wanted to give them some press for that. So cheers for Chewelah Electric and Chewelah Public Works.
Well, and I'll have to say too, we were in Spokane during that storm, and when we came back, the tree that was down in front of Valley Drug was already cleaned up and gone.
Right.
And that was within a couple hours.
Right.
So.
One of the things we got to get better on, and communication's a bugger, and we got to own it. So we will always work on communication. We can always get better and improve, and we need to care about doing so. One of the things I realized as I had the luxury as mayor to go behind the barriers, talk to leaders, and find out that this wasn't going to be a short outage. I realized, while we have contracted with a mass communication system, the launch of that has been abysmal, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But what's happening is, if it's going to be a 30-minute outage, you don't got to make a whole lot of decisions, right?
Right.
You kind of just wait it out. But if we start to exceed a 2, 3, 4 hour outage, it becomes critical that people know that's happening. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and the sooner they know that information, the better decisions they can make. So Jim Caruso investigated a lot of different mass notification systems, and this was last year. Council approved contracting with Nixle, Nixle. And much like if you're on the school district system, you get a text anytime there's an update, notice, board meeting, something like that they want feedback on. This is the same kind of system, works over the phone, landline, text, and email. The trick is people have to sign up for it. We can't just take your name and number because you have a utility bill and plug you in, which is silly but true. Most people would want to sign up, but there may be some people who don't. So what people have to do to be able to get those notifications and those timely updates by whatever means they choose is go to nixle.com, Nixle.com, click sign up.
Okay.
Once you do that, you're going to enter your zip code, and it's going to walk you through the rest of it. You get to select how you want to be communicated with, the frequency of those communications, etc. So that, as was my experience, I knew it was going to be a 4-hour outage as soon as I went over on West 2nd Street and saw this fir. It was the attack of the fir trees. Did you know that? Apart from the one on Main, 3 fir trees went down, and they did all the damage, and it was all fir trees. But, we knew it was going to be a longer one, and here we are, stuck. Right. If you called the electrical department, all the phone did was ring. So what we're going to do in the interim, while people are signing up and encouraging friends and family members who aren't listening to sign up, is we're going to be posting on the city website anytime one of those events occurs, and we'll do hourly updates so people have a place to go to get at least some barometer of what to expect as the crews work real hard to fix the problems in town. So that's kind of where we're at on the communication.
Is there going to be, so you said people are calling but nobody could get through. Will there be some sort of message that they'll get?
Hours or whatever in our phone system. While you could do that at City Hall, that would mean, you'd have to staff someone at that moment to actually take the calls because the system, you can't update it like that in real time.
Oh, you can't update with like an hourly message or anything? Okay, gotcha.
So, Greg, one of the things that I really liked about where I currently moved to, as you signed up for the utilities, most of it's done electronically or digitally anymore.
Yeah.
But they had an opt-in where I just hit the link and I opted in, and I was able to pull those options in off of the utility site or the utility bill. instead of having to go to some offsite website that nobody remembers the web address to.
Yep.
Right.
No, great post. Yeah.
So I would, and I know Chihuila's got that on the utility side because that's the way I get my utility bill now. So when I get that, to me, if I get that email that says, hey, you're getting ready to pay your water bill or whatever, if you just had an opt-in link to go over there automatically and give me the option, I think you'd get a lot more traction than trying to get people to go to a website.
It's a great concept. And when you get into the reality of those, you start to realize how many people so we went fully automated, right, with our utility billing, which
I
is
pay mine online now.
Real progress.
Yeah.
Then you learn real quickly is once people do that, they literally go into autopilot,
right,
and don't read the email.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
So, but you have to do those, multiple contingencies to get something like this launched, and it's really challenged us. We had signups at the auction, the citywide auction. We had signups there.
Oh wow!
Trying to find any mass gathering to sign people up. So no, we will definitely look into that, Mike. That's a great addition because that is the most convenient way to do that.
Well, Chuck, you need to be signed up for this too because when it pops up on Chuck's phone, him being the number one guy in the building at the radio station, gives him an excellent opportunity to go on the air and let folks know how long that's going on. Yeah. I've had an ongoing problem, and this is county-wide, and I just like to put it in your ear, Mr. Mayor, because it's every time we get a new sheriff, any of this Tri-County area gets a new sheriff, it's the same problem over and over again, and I finally got to the point before where I moved, I just put up my hands and said, nobody cares. And that's the emergency alert system the radio is tied to. Now, that's a federal, which they used to be called EBS, the emergency broadcast system that makes the squelches and the tones over your radio or your TV. They renamed it a couple decades ago to the emergency alert system. And this is a daisy chain of radio and television stations across the country. And the people that can activate this system are the president, FEMA, your governor, or your county sheriff. The problem with the government's, and by the way, radio stations are required by law to carry this equipment and have it working. Mm-hmm. The problem with the government's plan is it's not required for the governor or the sheriff, which you would think if you've instituted this plan across the country, it would be. So what happens is a new sheriff comes in and that information does not get shared during the rollover. Back when we had our big firestorm there, what's it been now? 5-6 years in Stevens County, where it was super bad and there was tons of evacuations. I couldn't figure out why every county around us was setting off the emergency alert system, but our own county was not. And when I contacted I finally got through to the sheriff at the time, which was Kendall, and his comment to me when I said that, he goes, "Oh yeah, I've totally dropped the ball. I don't even know where it was." Here in Stevens County, the sheriff's office had given that box that activates that, where a sheriff can say we have an emergency evacuations in this area, had given it to the county commissioners, who by federal guidelines are not the people to be in charge of it.
Wow.
When I approached the commissioners, and I'm not going to name the commissioner, I got stonewalled, I got talked nasty to, I was told I was trying to panic people, and here's my flaw with the activation system through cell phone or landlines, is he says, well, and I can't remember what the county calls it, he says, we have the system put in place. And I said, yeah, what if somebody's trapped by fire and their cell phone doesn't work? What if, and he goes, well, we have landline too. And I said, yeah, and what if the fire has burned those landlines down? Now their only option would be the radio. And I finally at that time got the sheriff to take that box back, and Kendall, every time there was an evacuation, would literally call me on my cell phone going, did it go out over the radio? And those are how to get those. But we had some emergencies going on, and when I approached the new sheriff, it was the same kind of thing. Well, we don't know where it is. Ferry County had tons of evacuations where up at the Y there, after you cross the bridge going toward Canada on 395, that whole area, I used to have property up there, was all on fire. I called the Ferry County Sheriff's Office and asked them why they're not activating the emergency alert system for activations, and they said, the what? I said, every sheriff in the country has to have one of these boxes. And they were like, huh? So I just wanted to share that story with you because these sheriffs in our Tri-County area have these boxes for evacuations. If there was a problem in Chewelah, you as the mayor could call this sheriff and say, we need this to go out over the emergency alert system. So it's going out over the Chewelah radio station and it's going out over the Colville radio station. And the only person with the authority to do that is the sheriff, and they shouldn't be handing that stuff away.
Great.
So,
Yeah. No, I'll investigate a little bit further because I think that, certainly in the community, but as well as the county, we need to be able to touch a lot of people all at once and be good at that. So,
that's what I told them. I said it's just another avenue of safety for the public.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and like I always like to say, not to toot our own horn, but unless this very spot I'm sitting right now is engulfed in flames, we can still go out on the air with our system we have upstairs. And there's a lot of times, like Scott was saying, if the power is out, if the cell phone lines are down, if everything is out, we can still broadcast to people. As long as you are in your car, you have a working radio, we can still access this system. But our system upstairs is old. And, we've talked about getting some resources to get that replaced and updated. So.
Yeah, sometimes you have to plug it in, unplug it, plug it in, unplug it, plug it in, and then it takes off, and you're like, yes.
Get it so the fan ramps up as you plug it and unplug it, and
it's like Grandpa's old car sitting in the field for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and it rarely, like I think Chuck had to use it over this past weekend.
Yep.
And that was the first time our backup system had, other than testing it and showing people how to use it, that was the first time it was fired up to be used in over a year.
Yeah.
So. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you have anything else on communications and emergencies?
Nope, that
Greg?
does it for that bucket.
All right. Your last one was youth, and I love this one. What's going on with the pros?
So with the pros planning, I know you guys you hosted Larry Feder on a show a month or so ago.
Was it last week?
Last
or
week.
Last Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, boy!
It was a really great show, actually.
Good.
It was a great show,
got a full. So pros, parks and recreation outdoor spaces. When you look at it just from a parks and rec standpoint, you might not have appreciation why this is so important for the youth bucket. Parks and recreation to me growing up was I showed up at the park. There were a bunch of other kids there, and a bunch of planned activities that were free.
Yep.
That was how I grew up in Parks and Rec, and that's what I thought Parks and Rec was. Parks and Rec is so much more than that, and it doesn't just touch youth, but goes all the way up to our elderly and senior center development and things like that. It has to do with standardizing beautification work in the park and across the community. And having Larry Feder's experience, return home after having grown up here and been a lifeguard at our pool, then going to 30 years working in Parks and Rec, just brings back more talent and passion to our community that's going to really benefit the community. So he and about a 20-person steering committee are just doing great work, which I won't belabor because you guys all heard about that recently. But the output of that, the number one target I'm sure he shared is an aquatic center. That is a very high target. It's very consistent with the spirit of Chewelah. I went to the ribbon cutting for the Gold Hill mountain biking, hiking, recreation area. If we want to buy a mountain, we buy a mountain. If we want a ski resort, we build a ski resort. If we want to have a mountain biking trail system, we buy a mountain. It's just how we roll. And so if we want an aquatic center, we're throwing in hard. But it doesn't stop there. The Little League Association with Leslie Masuda, the Bowmans, and many others are engaged now in that process. So angling towards looking at actually having a Little League complex where we could host full tournaments, multi-team type deals, and all the analysis that goes into that, building the foundation. If you don't have a foundation in your pursuit of these things, you will not get them.
Right.
Because it's all grant driven. And so Larry is adept at navigating that space, and so that's coming along beautifully, and I think the future is really bright. Still have a ton of work to do to continue to build things for you, but the Gold Hill is a great example. They not only opened bought a mountain and opened and developed a mountain biking hiking area. They got the mayor on his mountain bike, which he hadn't sat in the saddle for 7 years. Mountain biking used to be one of my 5 hobbies. So that was accomplished in and of itself, but it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And to have, the Washington Evergreen Biking Association come in and ride it and say it's some of the best stuff we've seen.
Ooh,
it's
nice.
just,
Awesome. Yeah.
It's Chewelah proud, man. You're just like, hoorah, gang, way to go.
That's cool.
So that's great. The Young Life is continuing to launch and develop. We're looking at fall for rolling that out. The other piece that ties into youth has to do with the Civic Center and its remodel.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Larry Fetter is helping us repost our CDBG grant for the revitalization of the Civic Center.
That sounds like a nightclub from the 70s.
Doesn't it?
The CBGB?
CBG,
yeah. Whatever.
Disco or something.
Yeah.
But that is a $1.5 million grant that would fully restore our Civic Center and modernize it. So we'd have a full commercial kitchen that's health code standard. We would have new HVAC. We would have new office space in there to better utilize some of the space. And so that's all coming. We'll find out about that in October. So that's been submitted. I think it was early June. That was submitted.
That's exciting.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
So you don't have to wait a long time. And once we get that in hand, that's rolling. In lieu of that, 2 council meetings ago, we revamped the facility use policy so that families and kids, as long as there's adult supervision, can now go into the Civic Center, check in at City Hall,
right,
and very easily play a game of pickup basketball.
Nice.
They don't have to get $1 million insurance policy to play a game of pickup ball.
Jump through all the hoops and pay all the fees, and yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a $5 registration fee, but that falls under the city's liability policy.
Okay.
And so we've tried to make that more user-friendly, but with the restoration work across age groups, it's going to be the people's building.
And the fees for using the facility, are those changing as well? Or
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can be a little more affordable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We try to make those things that are public facilities as easy to access as possible, and
Right.
it just hadn't received some attention for a while. So
I know we were trying to do some stuff when we first moved here, and we looked into it, and
Mhm.
it was a no on our list.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
There are some things when it comes to events and stuff like that that you just can't get around from an insurance
Right.
standpoint. But most of the insurance companies have products now that still make that pretty affordable and pretty easy. So
And you just like, I know with the tulip one, you had to be careful what you choose. I remember the first time I rented the Civic Center for a concert, is I put in their concert and it was $1,000, and then I went, well, it's really a fundraiser for the public radio station. I put in fundraiser, it was $100. So, I don't know if it was right, but I chose fundraiser because it wasn't like we were doing a death metal concert where people were going to come in and have a mosh pit for, a KCHW
Right.
show or something like that. Yeah. So, all right. Anything we missed on your list, Mr. Mayor?
I don't think so. It's a great time to
All
live
right.
in Chewelah, and I
Yeah.
think everything's headed in the right direction. If I left listeners with a word as I sit communicating over the radio with my friends Scott, Mike, and Chuck, is let's all work together on communication. And
Yeah.
let's make it the kind of communication that builds people up and builds
Agreed.
our community up. There's a lot going on in our world today that divides. One of the things that makes me proud is that the community in Chewelah, and I think it's something we've got to all fight for. We've got a great level of diversity. We've got great energy. We've got a very bright future. Let's communicate well.
Absolutely.
Well, and some appreciation for you too, Greg, and a round of applause, because when you talk about the city of Chewelah and how much you love it, you can tell you believe it, and that you know, sometimes when you get into, even if it's local politics, it becomes about ego or, you know, the other things that might go into that. But when you talk about this, you can pick up your true desire to do what's best. And granted, we can all make mistakes, but to keep Chewelah moving on the best possible path. And I'll just say that you've, since you started, you've impressed me. Here you go.
Bless you for that.
So hats off to you and the good work you're doing, and keep it up, because an organized city is a beautiful city.
Indeed.
All the way around.
Well said. Well
Agreed.
said. Thank you, Scott.
All right. And for us, that's the end of our show today as we head toward the 9 o'clock hour. We hope you have a great day. We want to thank you for tuning in. If you missed any part of this morning's show, or we covered what the nonprofits in town are doing, or our conversation with Mayor Greg McCunn, you can find that on Facebook and YouTube. Just go for KCHW on radio on Facebook, and on YouTube, it's KCHW.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yes, and tomorrow it is Goofy Thursday with the Three Amigos right here, 720 KCHW 102.7.
All right. Bye.